Hello and welcome to today's math lesson. Please make sure you have your equipment ready, pen and some papers, and ready for the lesson. Here are the starter activity, 6 questions. Pause the video for 6 to 10 minutes. When you finish all the 6 questions, then start the video again. Here you can see all the answers for starter. Make sure you mark it and record your score out of 6 and email it to your class teacher. I'm quickly gonna go through the answers as well. You know how to do the first one. Just make sure you know ascending order means listed from smallest to biggest. Highest common factor is the factors are those two numbers. If you times together, you get the original number. For example, the factors of 24 are 1 and 24, because if I times 1 and 24, I get 24. 2 and 12, 3 and 8, and 6 and 4. You do the same things for 16 and 12. Then check in all three what number is in common and is the highest one that is in common. As you can see, the highest common factor is 4. 3 over 5, you have 5 pieces in total and you want 3 of them be shaded, so you just gonna color 3 of them. Equivalent fraction, you need to make sure if there's something happening at the top, the same things happening at the denominator. So what's happening at the top, it was 3 times 5 to get to 15, so you need to make sure it's same things happening at the denominator as well, because it's 5 times 5 is 25, so which means these two fractions are equivalent. Next one, converting into improper fractions. When you convert into improper fraction, you times the whole number, which is 4, by denominator, which is 5, so you do 4 times 5, which is 20. Then you add that 20 by whatever you have on the top. So 20 add 2 is 22. You write that number that you found at the top, 22, over, and denominator stay as it was, over 5. So it's going to be 22 over 5 as an improper fraction or top heavy fraction. And last one, simplifying. When you have a fraction, you need to do all the calculation at the top, write it at the top, all the calculation at the bottom, and write it at the bottom. So I have 5 at 15, which is 20, add 4, which is 24. That number goes as where it was, which is the numerator. Then you have a square root of 64, which is 8, and it was on denominator. So you have 24 over 8, which means the same as 24 divided by 8, which is equal to 3. As I said, make sure you score. Make sure you write your score and email it to your class teacher. In here, I'm just going to talk to you through that what we're going to do in this lesson. First of all, we're going to have a look finding the missing fraction, where you need to add the fractions to 1 to get to 1, and then subtracting the fraction from 1, and then at the end I will look at adding integer and the fractions. Okay. So now quickly make sure you have the LO written in your book, which is to know how to add an integer and a fraction, and then the success criteria, as I said, to know how to just add the same denominator fraction to get to 1, and then how to subtract from 1, and at the end how to add an integer and a fraction. But just make sure you have your LO written down in your book. Okay, now let's start the lesson with some examples. Have a look at the first one. You can see two fractions, one number is missing in here, with the same denominator, they are equal to 1. Let's see how can I have two fractions add together and be equal to 1. If you remember last lesson, we've done some few questions on adding the fraction with the same denominator. So you can see I have two fractions adding together, same denominator. What would I do? I need to just write one of the denominator. So I need to have 13 as a denominator, but then I'm saying my last answer should be equal to 1. If you remember, if you had the same numerator as a denominator, so if you had 13 over 13, which is the same as 13 divided by 13, that would be equal to 1. So by looking at my denominator, which is 13, I know my numerator, they should be 13 as well to get to 1. Then I just see 7 add what? Give me 13. 7 add 6 gives me 13. So I found the missing number. So again, look at the denominator. Because they are the same, you need to keep one denominator, isn't it, for your answer. So you keep one denominator. But the question was telling you your answer should be equal to 1. So that gives you that information that the top needs to be the same as denominator. So which means it should be 13 over 13 to be equal to 1. Okay, so I've just wrote 13 over 13. But then, what number, if I add by 7, I get 13. It would be 6. So that missing number was 6. Now pause the video for 10 seconds and have a go with video. Okay, now the same thing's happening here again. The question telling me you add two fraction and get your answer as 1. So I need to just look at the denominator. They are the same, so I need to write one of the denominator. But then because I want my answer as 1, I have to do this. I have to end up with the numerator and denominator the same to just say, okay, that fraction is equal to 1. So I know my denominator has to be 23. So which means the numerator has to be 23 as well to be equal to 1. So I need to make sure I write that first, which is 23 over 23, which is equal to 1. That's still part of the question. Now, what number do I need to add to 7 to get to 23? 7 add what? Give you 23. Add 16. So that missing number was 16. Okay, I do the next I do as well. Okay, again, look at the denominator. They are the same, so I know the denominator has to be 20. And because the question telling me to be equal to 1 at the end, I know that the numerator and denominator both needs to be the same. So I have 20 over 20, which is equal to 1. So I didn't change the question. Now, what number do I need to add to 7? So 7 add what? Give me 20. 7 add 13. So that missing number was 13. Now again, pause the video for 10 seconds and have a go with video, please. Okay, here again the denominator are the same. So my denominator in the answer should be 100 as well. So I'm gonna write 100 and I know that it should be equal to 1. So how a fraction going to be equal to 1 when the top and bottom be the same? So I need to end up with 100 over 100 that be equal to 1. So now, what number, if I do 7 add what number, gives me 100? 93. 7 add 93 would be equal to 100. So that missing number was 93. Here is some practice for you, some practice exercise for you to do it. Pause the video, have a go with all of them, then start the video again. But just make sure the first question you're doing, it is addition. So the first question that you're doing in here, this is all additions. But this is the second question, it is subtraction. It's still the same things happening. So you need to make it equal to 1. Look at the denominator and everything is exactly the same as what you do for addition. But then at the end, for finding the missing number, you need to just make sure you're doing the subtraction to find the missing number. So it's still the same things. Have a go with all of them and then start the video again. Here you can see all the answers for practice exercise. Mark it properly. And make sure when you finish, write your score, record your score out of how many they are, and then email it to your class teacher. So please make sure you record your score and email it to your class teacher. Now that we know how two fractions add up to get to 1, now let's see what's happened if we're subtracting from 1. In here, in the first question, you can see I have 1, take away a fraction. When I have this kind of question, I know what can I write instead of 1, because I know if I have a fraction with the numerator and denominator the same thing, I can end up with 1. So to decide, I can have, I don't know, 2 over 2, 3 over 3, 100 over 100, because they are all equal to 1. So I can have lots and lots of different fractions, because if the numerator and the denominator, they are the same, they be equal to 1. But which one I'm going to pick? Based on whatever is the denominator for your second fraction, because you want to, at the end, you want to subtract, isn't it? And for subtraction, we need to make sure our denominator are the same. So for that reason, I'm going to pick 4 over 4 instead of 1. I'm going to write 4 over 4, because then I didn't change anything, because 4 over 4, it is equal to 1, so I didn't change anything. And the reason I picked 4 over 4 and nothing else, as I said, because you can have lots of different fractions to be equal to 1 as long as the top and bottom are same. But the reason to picking 4 over 4 is because of the denominator for second fraction. Then if I just do 4 over 4 instead of 1 and then rewrite the question, take away 3 over 4, then I end up with the same denominator, isn't it? So then I can do my calculation much easier. So make sure first step, instead of 1, decide what numerator over what denominator you need to have to be equal to 1 and be the same as the second fraction's denominator. So because that's 4, I decided to have 4 over 4 and then take away 3 over 4. Now the same as last lesson. Look at the denominator, they are the same. So you're gonna write one of the denominators and subtract the top. So I have the denominator as 4 and then 4 take away 3 at the top. And 4 take away 3 is 1 and the denominator stay the same, and I can't simplify, so that's going to be my last answer. Now pause the video and have a go with video, please. Okay, same thing happening in here. Again, 1 take away a fraction, so I can't do it this way. I can't just take away a fraction from 1. I need to write 1 as a fraction as well. To write 1 as a fraction, I can have lots of different fraction, that is the numerator and denominator the same, and they all going to be equal to 1. But which one I'm going to pick, I'm going to decide based on the denominator of the second fraction. Because of 14, I'm going to pick 14 over 14, then take away 3 over 14. Now I have a same denominator. I'm going to write one of the denominators and subtract the top. So 14 take away 3, which is 11. So your last answer is going to be 11 over 14, and as you can see, you can't simplify it more than that. Very well done if you managed to do this one right. Now just a couple of more examples. If you look at here, again the same things. I have 1 take away a fraction, so I need to just replace 1 with the fraction. That the numerator and denominator, they both are the same things, but then I'm gonna decide which fraction I'm gonna pick based on the denominator and the second fraction. Because it's 41, I need to pick 41 over 41, which is equal to 1, and make the calculation easy for me as well, because then it's gonna stay the denominator as it is. Okay, so I just rewrote the question now with substituting 41 over 41 instead of 1, because it's still the same things. Now I have a same denominator. I'm going to write one of the denominator and subtract the top. So I have 41 as a denominator, and at the top I have 41 take away 3, which is equal to 38. So it's going to be 38 over 41. Now have a go with video, but just as you can see in the video, you have 3 fractions. The first 2 fractions is quite similar to what I've done. You need to do the first 2 fractions, then whatever is the answer, do with the third one. Don't confuse yourself. Pick the first 2, do it first, and then subtract the last one. Have a go and then start the video again. Okay, as I said, the first part of the question, 1 take away 3 over 41, is exactly the same as what I've done. So if you just look, you're just gonna do exactly the same step. So you end up with 38 over 41, which is for these two fractions, but I haven't finished the answer yet. So I have the answer for this bit, then I need to do whatever I have, take away 4 over 7 over 41. Just make sure you keep the order though. You found the answer for this one, so that comes first, then take away the last fraction. Now again, look at the denominators, they are the same, so I'm going to write one of the denominator and subtract the top. So it's going to be 38, take away 7 at the top, which is 31 over 41. So denominator stay as it is, subtract the top, which is 31 over 41. Very well done if you managed to do this one right. Here are some questions for you to practice. Pause the video, have a go with all of them. When you finish, then start the video again. Here you can see all the answers for the second practice exercise that you've done. Record your score and then make sure you email it to your class teacher, please. Okay, this is our last part of the lesson. As you can see, we have an integer, a whole number, which is adding to a fraction. Let's see what's happened in this kind of questions. I'm gonna show you with some shape. First of all, if I draw a two hole, I'm gonna draw two circle, two hole shaded being shaded, and whole shape being shaded on the first one, whole shape being shaded on the second one as well. So that shows me two whole, and I have 3/4 as well, 3/4 of the shape being shaded. And how much do I have in total? How many do I have in total? I have two whole and 3/4. So I can write that as a mixed number. Do you remember you used to write a mixed number out of the shaded shape? So you have two whole and 3/4, so you can easily write your answer as a mixed number. What's happened there? If you can see, I just ignored that addition sign, two whole and 3/4. That's what's actually happening. Okay, quickly have a go with video, please. For redo, the same thing's happening. You have a 3 whole and a quarter. You can write it as a mixed number, or which is a 3 whole, 3/4. I do the next. I have 10 whole adding 3/4, which is as a mixed number, 10 whole and 3/4. Now pause the video and have a go with this video, but just be careful with this video, because if you realize that video, that part of the video, it is improper fraction itself. See if you can get the answer. So in here again, as I said, you have 10 whole and a fraction, so you can write as 10 and 5 over 4, but this is not the last answer, because in here, if you look at that fraction on its own and ignore just 10 and just look at that fraction on its own, you have improper fraction in there, which means you have some whole part in there. I need to just make sure I write that improper fraction as a mixed number first. To doing that, I need to check how many times that 4 goes into 5. 4 goes into 5 one times, and the leftover is going to be 1 over 4. So again, writing that improper fraction as a mixed number, how many times 4 goes into 5? Once, and the remainder, the leftover is 1, goes at the top, and the denominator stays as it is, going to be 4. So that improper fraction as a mixed number is 1 whole, 1 over 4. So I have 1 whole in here, 10 whole in there. So in total, I have 11 whole and a quarter. So my last answer, it's 11 whole and a quarter. Make sure, in this case, if you have an improper fraction, you need to write it as a mixed number and then add these up. So you have 10 whole there, 1 whole in here, you have 11 whole and 1/4. Very well done if you managed to do this one right. Okay, more practice. Again, I have 1 whole and 5 over 4. By just looking at 5 over 4, I realized this is not a fraction. This is not just a simple fraction, it's an improper fraction. When you have an improper fraction, the first step, just make sure you just change it to mixed number first. So if I want to change that fraction to mixed number, the same as what we've just done in a previous example, how many times 4 goes into 5? 1 times. And what is the leftover? So 4 goes into 5 1 time, that's the whole number, because 4 goes into 5, the whole 4 goes into 5 1 times. And then what is the leftover? It's 1 goes on a numerator, and then over the denominator always is 4. We've done changing improper fraction to mixed number before. So you do that, and then you have 1, add 1 and 1/4. So you have 2 whole, 1 whole in there and 1 whole in there. So you have 2 whole and a quarter. So you have 1 whole there, 1 whole there, 2 whole and a quarter. And you write your answer as a mixed number. Now pause the video and have a go with the video question, please. Now again in here, before I do any calculation, I look at 15 over 4, which just clearly shows me that's an improper fraction. Improper fraction means top heavy fraction, means you have a bigger number at the top. So I need to make sure I change that improper fraction to mixed number first. For doing that, you need to see how many 4 you can fit in 15. How many whole 4 goes into 15? 3 4s. So you can fit 3 4s in 15, which gives you 12. So 3 whole. And then how many left over from 12 to 15? 3 goes at the top, and the denominator stay as it is. So 3 whole and 3/4. You change that improper fraction to mixed number. If you're struggling this bit, this is actually changing improper fraction to mixed number. Go and watch the video about changing improper fraction to mixed number. Okay, you have 1 whole there and 3 whole in here, so you have 4 whole and 3/4. So your last answer should be 4 whole and 3/4. Very well done if you manage to do this one right. Okay, here you can see a slightly harder questions, but it's the same rule. Just let's do the first one. Okay, again, when I'm dealing with 3 fraction, what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna completely ignore the last one and look at the first 2. The first 2 is 1 at 17 over 14, but because I'm dealing with the whole number and improper fraction, first of all I need to look at the improper fraction and make sure I write it as a mixed number first. To write the improper fraction as a mixed number, again, how many times 14 goes into 17? Once, 1 whole, and the remainder is 3 over 14, and denominator stay the same. So change that to a mixed number, you get 1 whole, 3 over 14. So I'm just gonna rewrite the question for first bit. So I had 1 whole, which is in here, and then add 1 whole and 3/4 is in it. So what's going to happen in here? Now I look at the whole section. So I have 1 whole, add another whole. So I have 2 whole and 3/4. So I found out the answer for the first 2 fractions, which is 2 whole and 3/4. Then I need to just add the last fraction, isn't it? So I have the answer for the first 2, add the last fraction. So now in here I have 2 whole and I don't have any whole in this one, so I end up with 2 whole, and if you want to add these 2 fractions, you have 14, same denominator, and you need to add the top. So you add the top, you get 5. So again, you had 2 whole, you're going to write it down in here, same denominator, you're going to write one of the denominator and add the top, which is 5. So your last answer is 2 whole, 5 over 14. So don't worry if it's just 3, just pick the first 2, find the answer first, and then the answer for the first part, add the last part, and you do it that way. So 2 whole stay there, and then denominator stay the same at the top, write it at the top. Now pause the video, have a go with video please. Again in here, ignore the last one. Look at the first two. Okay, I have 1 at 10 over 14. This is not an improper fraction, so I'm not worried about like changing it to a mixed number. So I straight away write 1 whole and 10 over 14. Then I add these two first, a fraction. I don't have any improper fraction, so I just gonna easily can write 1 whole and 10 over 14. Then I need to have that at the last one, isn't it? So I'm gonna write that fraction at the last fraction. Again in here, I have 1 whole in here, which is stay there, and then 14, same denominator, gonna write it the same denominator once, and then 10 at 4 at the top. So 1 whole goes there, 14, same denominator, go there, and then 10 at 4 at the top. But now, if you realize, you end up with 14 over 14, which you know, any number over if any fraction that you have numerator and denominator the same, it can be written as 1, because that actually means 4 pieces shaded out of the whole 14 piece of shaded out of a whole 14, which is actually means the whole itself. So I had 1 whole in here, this bit gives me another whole, so I have 2 whole at the end. So make sure your answer should be 2. Perfect, well done if you managed to do it right. And now here you have some question for you to practice more. First 2 rows, they are so easy, but just make sure, for example, on G and H, that you have like improper fraction. Even second row, all second row you have improper fraction. When you have improper fraction, you need to change them to mixed number first and then do your calculation. So have a go with all of them, then start the video again to check your answers. Now here you can see all your answers. Mark your answers please, and make sure you've done all of them right, and if you've gone wrong, where you gone wrong. Record your score for this practice exercise as well, and email all the things that you recorded during the lesson to your class teacher please. This is the end of the lesson. If you have any question, still you can email your class teacher. Enjoy your day and see you next time.